This is Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. I am your host, Trapper Jack. This episode is entitled Conversations with Heaven. A few Wednesdays back, my wife Beth and I were at Mass. It's daily Mass, so not many people were there. We're kind of sitting there by ourselves, for the most part, in our little area of the church. As my phone went off, it's like, I don't mean ringing. It wasn't ringing. It was something else was going on. And I had everything off. I had Do Not Disturb. I had everything down. The volumes were at their lowest level. It was like, what? But I could hear a little voice coming from my phone saying, we are still attempting to assist you in finding someone that can help you, something like that. And I go, what is it? I start fumbling into my pocket, for the phone and turning off the screen and volumes down. Like, what is that? A minute or so goes by, and now I hear a woman's voice. Hello, can I help you? And it's like, what? So I'm reaching into my pocket again and fumbling around and turning off screens. Like, what is this? By the end of Mass, I'd figured out what it was, and Beth is asking me, what was that?
Be My Eyes. Call first available volunteer.
Be My Eyes is the name of the app. Call the first available volunteer. What is this thing? About 50,000 of us blind folk have this app on our phone, and there are about 900,000 volunteers all around the world on the other end waiting for our call. We open up the app, we touch the screen, and it will hook me up with a volunteer, a sighted person. And the camera goes into use. And for example, I could say, is this a red shirt or a blue shirt? And they would say, oh, it's a red one. Oh, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Something simple as that. Is this cream of mushroom soup or a can of chicken noodle? That's the chicken noodle. Thank you. Am I holding a Peruvian three-toed tree frog or a hydraulic sutonator valve? Yeah. So at the end of going back to Mass here, Beth is saying, what is that? And I said, well, this is Touched by Heaven here. The app is Be My Eyes. I need help in seeing something. Either I'm not seeing something quite right, we're not seeing something quite right. I don't know what it is. And we started talking about, well, does this have to do with, we were discussing, is this something to do with Patreon we'd been talking about, or does this have something to do with videos we're doing? What is this? But I got to tell you, in the back of my mind, way back there, I did have a question. And I had said a prayer, in a sense. Remember, God is hearing everything we think, right? And there was kind of a prayer. And my prayer was, God, did I go over the top on episode 2? That was the Tom Hanks We Need You episode. And I got kind of frenetic, kind of a young Tom Hanks approach to things, if you will. I got a little frenetic, and I kept going back and forth. This okay? Should I post this? Should I change this? Should I redo this? It's okay. No, it's not. And I kind of kept going, the heck with it. I'm just going to leave it as is, right? But in the back of my mind, even after I posted it, it's like, I don't know. So here was, I was kind of getting this, would you like some help in seeing something maybe in a little better light? Now, as I'm looking at Beth, kind of in the same line of sight, although I can't see her, but I know she's over there, is a statue of the Blessed Mother. And I've always, this podcast, I've always asked her, please guide me in where this goes. And this was kind of a moment where I'm thinking, at some point, Beth and I start talking about, if I could just see things through Mary's eyes when I produce these podcasts, if I can please Mary, we're golden. We're golden. Why? Because she's a woman. Yeah, balances me. She's smart and funny. How do I know that? Because God would only give Jesus the best. He would give his son somebody who's smart, funny, light, spiritually connected, serious when she needs to be, light when she, you know what I mean? She's perfect, right? She is the perfect one of us. So if I can just see things through her eyes, and if I would have gone through her eyes for episode 2, a lot of it wouldn't be quite the same. Some would, some wouldn't, but I'd back off in certain areas because, that would, you know what I mean? See what I'm saying? When you start looking at things through a listener's eyes, things can change. So I think she would be the perfect listener. She's our target audience in the sense that if I can make her happy, we're good. So I think God was offering me her eyes. She is the Be My Eyes, through an app. That's the message I got through this app. Now, I'm not the only one who gets messages from God through apps. As it turns out in this episode, you'll hear from someone who got a little message from God through an app. God's high tech. He's very high tech. In this episode of Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God, Conversations with Heaven. That can be with the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, with angels, with saints. Listen to the back and forth of these conversations. A question answered. A plea for help answered. Back And fourth, back, well, you just heard my conversation with God with Blessed Mother. Now my eyes for these episodes. Conversations, they are real. We hear about God's mercy. We hear about how when we pray for an angel to help us, guess what? All part of this episode of Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. Every single one of these Touched by Heaven moments showcase God's mercy. His mercy that He's right here, right now, and offering us comfort within Him. There's a song, Mercy, O Lord, give us mercy, O Lord. Send us your mercy and set us free. Set us free from what? Coming up here, 3 different women who were all set free by God's mercy. Each one was dealing with a loved one who was either departing or had departed. And in each case, God offered His mercy, His comfort to those individuals. Mercy, O Lord. Hey, it must be Lee Knox.
Hi.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait a minute. I have to find you. Wait.
Well, I have it on audio only, so you're not going to see me.
Oh, okay.
See, I didn't want you to have to comb your hair and all that stuff, see?
Oh. Now, should I call you Philip or Trapper? What do you go by?
Well, I'm Trapper for these things, so I think that just,
great.
But you can call me either way. Either way, I go either way.
That's how I know you. That's how I know you as Trapper. We used to listen to you every single morning, and with my husband, he was very sick for 9 years. And when I saw you were doing this, I thought, well, this is great. This is like what I've been thinking about. Little God moments that I would see in the midst of often when things were like at their worst. It started in 2009 when he got this, horrific diagnosis of anesthesioneuroblastoma. Only about 50 people a year in the United States might get diagnosed with it. Tumor in the upper sinus cavity between your eyes, and it grows off the smelling nerve. Honestly, he was a saint. Through the entire 9 years, he never, ever, ever, ever complained. It was like, I did all of that. He didn't do any complaining, ever. And even right up to the day before he died, he was still thanking his nurses. And these doctors. It resulted in, having to meet with nursing supervisors 3 or 4 times. Oh,
you hear that little, like she's getting messages, right? Getting messages on her phone there. And I thought, do I tell her that, she may want to turn that off? And as it turned out, no, I definitely should not, because that plays a role. That plays a very definite role in this Touched by Heaven moment and God's mercy. Because after 9 years of battling this health issue and other related items, it was finally at the end. Tom was finally at the end of his life.
So that night, we knew that it was very close, and we all, had our chance to quietly say goodbye to him. My son had arrived from Seattle in time, and, the family was all there, and then they all left, and then it was just me and my 3 kids that were still there. So we all, each individually, went in to say our goodbyes. And the very, very moment that I stepped out of his room into the hallway, my phone dinged, with a little message. And I have on my phone an app that is called God Moments. And all it does is 3 times a day, at random times during the day, it sends you a little message, and it's the same message 3 times a day. So you don't know when it's going to come. And most of the time, they've been like praises, exaltations, things like that, praising God. So that particular day, when my phone dinged, I hadn't looked at it throughout most of the day at all, so I didn't notice it. But at the time that it went off on that evening, the moment I walked out of his room, put my right foot into the hallway, my pocket dinged, and it said, "It is in dying that we are born." And there it was, 3 times, all 3, messages from that particular day showed up, and it was 3 times. It is in dying that we are born. And it was like, there was just like no greater evidence of God's presence at that point in time, and I showed it to my daughter, and her eyes kind of like got like really big, like, oh my God, because here we were, just saying our goodbyes, and the timing could not have been more perfect. I was just like, everybody that I've told are just like, wow. I mean, it just takes your breath away.
Lee Knox, beautiful. Mercy, O Lord, send down your mercy, O Lord. And he does.
May I ask how old are you?
80.
Sharon Vertal, what a beautiful lady. 80 years old, she lost her husband John 7 years ago, and last summer she was in pain.
And I missed him so much. I just, I don't think about him that much. I pray for him all the time. But this one day, I don't know what was the matter. I just got tears in my eyes, and that I miss him. I wish I could communicate with him or something, But, I just cried for a while and I let it go. I think that night when I was saying my prayers, I thought, I miss him so much. It's been so long. If only I could hear from him, or you'd let me feel close to him or something. I don't know what my exact prayer was. But, it was the first time I was ever that broke up after 7 years. And I needed him, and I needed to know that everything was okay. So I went to sleep, and you can call it a dream if you want, but it was the most real thing that had ever happened to me. Because all of a sudden, in my dream, I guess, I was saying the same thing I was saying. Oh, I miss him so much. I wish I could see him or talk to him. And he came up, my husband John, came walking up to me, and he just put his arms around me, and I didn't really see his face, but it was him, his size, his shoulders, the jacket he wore, and I put my arms around him, and I remember saying, oh, this is what I need. This is just what I need. And when I said that, he tightened his arms around me. My head was, on his chest, and arms around each other. And when I said, oh, this is what I need, this is just what I need, and then he hugged me tighter. And it was just so beautiful. It was more than a dream. I don't know what it was, but it was just beautiful. And then I opened my eyes, and I woke up, and I was just smiling. I was so happy. I was happy for days. It was the answer to my prayers. God let me know. He knows what's going on down here. And, he gave me that few moments, that dream or dream experience, whatever it was a gift from God. And I really, truly believe that. And it was just so beautiful. And I just know it was a gift of God. But I've never, ever had such a beautiful experience as this. I just know he's watching. God's watching over him, and he's watching over me. It's just beautiful.
Sharon Vertal on the receiving end of God's mercy, because he always knows exactly what we need.
So after my mom passed, my family went on vacation to Myrtle Beach.
This is Linda Lamarca.
And we were in a beach house, and everybody was there, and there was a horrible storm the night before that actually shook the beach house. The next morning, me and my one sister went down to walk the beach and see how much damage was done to any of the houses, because it was that bad. We walked down to the pier, which was about 2 miles down, and while we were walking, she said, I wish God would give us a sign that Mom's there. And we turned around, and my mom loved her yellow rose bushes, had tons of them, won awards with them. We turned around, we looked down on the beach, and mind you, it's high tide, and there was a yellow rose sitting there, just in the middle of the sand. So we picked it up, we thanked God, we knew she was there. We walked down the rest of the beach, and there are 5 children, and we found 5 yellow roses. One for each of us. They were all wilted. Mm-hmm. You had to be careful picking them up because the petals were all wilted, but they were all yellow. That's what happened. We kept the roses, we pressed them, and everybody has their own. Yep, so he's just telling us that, hey, she's okay. Yep, he's always looking out at us. That's all I could say.
Yep, he's always looking out for us. And he's always offering us his mercy. And he's always looking for a good conversation, a little bit of the back and forth. These are Conversations with Heaven. Thank you, Linda and Sharon and Lee on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. In your prayers, you ever been specific about needing an angel? You're in distress and only an angel can help you. Send me an angel. Well, you know what he does? He sends angels, as I find out in my conversation with Maria Burley.
Hello.
Maria. I just Facebook Messengered a girl named Maria.
Hi, Philip.
And suddenly I found... Sorry, I can't stop. Sorry, I can't stop. How you doing,
No,
Maria?
no, please do. Continue. No one serenaded me in a very long time.
It's been way too long, Maria. Been way too long. Where do you live? Where are you?
I'm in Albany, Georgia.
Albany, Georgia. And how did you hear about what we were doing and all that stuff? Who shared it with you or whatever?
I'm a huge fan of yours. I've been following Blind Faith Live forever.
Is that a fact?
You changed my life. Yes.
Nah, I'm sorry. I have the wrong number. I'm sorry.
Yes, you brought me closer to my faith.
Oh, God bless. God bless.
Thank you for that.
So,
yes.
so what category are we putting this under, Maria? What happened?
Well, I think angel. I'll let you be the judge. So this was in the early 90s. No cell phones. And I was driving. I was a young 20-some-year-old girl. And I was driving by myself from Virginia to Pennsylvania. The sun set. It was very dark. And my car started dimming more and more and more. And then my car died. And I was in the middle of nowhere. There were just mountains and woods and nothing around me. And I had pulled up when my car started dying. I had pulled up to the grass area, definitely away from the road so no one would hit my car. So I came out. I started trying to wave people down because I didn't know what else to do. And people were going so fast because it was the highway. And it was kind of right after a turn. So no one could see me, and I didn't want to stand in front of them so they'll run me over and then notice I was there.
So you were kind of in a situation that, by the time they saw you, they were past you.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I was thinking. I mean, by the time they're like, what was that? They were long gone and there were no exits nearby. So, and there weren't that many cars, either. It wasn't very busy at all. So I started to cry because it started getting a little cold and I was thinking, I don't know what to do. So I was going, please God, please God, please God, and wave and nothing. And this was back then. There was a time where there was books of angels came out and totally obsessed with that. And I remembered reading different stories about people encountering angels. So I was like, dear God, it is cold. It is dark. I'm scared. And I need your help. Please send me an angel to help me. And as soon as I finished the sentence, this Jeep driving slowly pulled up behind me. And this man steps out of the Jeep and walks up to me. And he was wearing white shoes, white socks, white pants, a white shirt, and a white sweater. And he walks up to me. The only thing that was the sweater had a V-neck, and it had a stripe of blue on the V-neck. And and when I saw him wearing all white, I was like, oh, beep, 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 holy cow.
By the way, what color was the Jeep?
You know what? I was trying to think when it definitely was not white. It was kind of like a yellowish, kind of like a greenish yellow kind of thing.
Just checking.
But they weren't white sneakers. They were kind of like white Chevy Chase shoes. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I know.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Who would wear that? So anyway,
only Chevy. White socks, white pants, white sweater. Okay, gotcha.
Everything white. Yeah.
I love it.
So
I love it.
He's like, what's wrong? What happened? I was like, I don't know. I told him what happened, and he looked, and he's like, so your band, for your alternator broke. That's what's wrong. There's a town 20 minutes behind us. Jump in the Jeep. Let's go buy one. I jumped in his Jeep, and I'm like staring at him, like staring. As he was driving, he was talking. And he's like, and I was just looking at him. And then I said, you're an angel, And he kind of smiled, smiled and didn't say anything. Kind of like, I know, he didn't go, no, I'm not. I'm just, just saw you, happy to help. He didn't say it. He didn't say no, And I was just staring at him, and he was just talking. The place was open. They were about to close. And we bought the belt, and he knew what to buy. And we went back, and he put the belt back in there. And I was like, do you want me to hold your sweater? It's going to get dirty. He's like, no, don't worry about it. So he did that, and he jump-started my car, and everything was great. And he's like, hey, you're good to go. Go ahead. And I was like, thank you so much. And he's like, oh, okay. I can't remember. He told me his name, but I can't remember. But he gave me a card. And when he gave me the business card, I was like so disappointed. I was like, I thought this was an angel. He gave me a business card,
Mm-hmm.
A couple years later, I was listening to like a book on tape about angels from somebody else. And this woman that studied angels, I don't know, I can't remember who it was, but she was, gathered stories and stuff. She said that Saint Michael, the archangel, she says sometimes he gives them a business card. More likely than not, the first name is Michael on the business card.
Do you remember if it was Michael? Was it Michael?
I wish I could say yes, but I don't remember.
You don't remember. You tossed the card. You tossed the card from an angel. Angel gives you a card, and you toss the card.
Yes, jeez. I'm so terrible. I was a young and dumb.
Jeez. But I think it's interesting that when you said you're an angel, he just smiled and. Because most people would say, no, I'm just trying to help you out, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Because I looked at him, I said, you're an angel. And he was like, he just smiled and kept going, kind of like you say, I know, right?
For you to finish the prayer and suddenly somebody slowly is coming around, that's pretty crazy. I think you got an angel there, Maria. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I've talked to a number of people. Yep.
Yeah, it was immediately after. Like I finished the sentence that he pulled up.
What was your faith? What was your faith in the 90s?
Oh, well, I've always been Roman Catholic, but, but on paper, pretty much,
Cafeteria style. Cafeteria style. Take and choose what you want. I'm there with you. I know. I know exactly what you mean. Cafeteria style. Take a little of this, a little of that. Don't like that.
God, yeah.
But
I go to church. Yeah.
But see, I've talked about this before in the podcast. There's a kindness about you. There's a niceness about you that these kinds of things happen because you're, if I may use a Jesus word, you're childlike, right? Your approach in a good way. I don't mean you're immature. I mean, you have an air about
exactly
you.
What you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, I'm always, I've always been, obsessed with, like saints and helping people and reading the Bible and, and all that stuff. That was like more where I still do need to work. Because of you, I started praying the rosary, again, like religiously. So,
because of the Blind Faith Live podcast, did you?
Yes.
Good for you.
Because I was like doing it, then I wasn't. Now I'm doing it again ever since I started listening to you. So.
I keep saying it's not a Catholic thing, although people think it is. It's not just a married, Catholics are married. No. This is so powerful. I'm telling you. And I've told the story. I love telling the stories when I go out speaking engagements of, here are these Jesuit priests praying the rosary every day. And there they are in Hiroshima, Japan, and the bomb hits 8 blocks away. Everything else is decimated, and they're fine. They're fine.
Praise God.
That kind of thing. And there's so many rosary stories where it is so strong. It is so strong against evil, against darkness. It is just so strong. So,
amen. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that. And I've been handing people rosaries or, and giving them little books on how to pray the rosary and all that good stuff. And, and I've always had a connection with the Blessed Mother. But since I listened to you, it had been, sometimes I would be like, curious about what other religions believe and have to say. But you just put me straight into like, no. This is my faith. This is what I want it to be. And don't worry about everything else. So I'm excited for you. Good, congratulations, and I wish you the best.
Oh, you're so sweet, Maria. Anything else come to mind beyond that particular experience where you thought it was a pretty cool God incident or God thing?
Well, the very one was I was walking this dog, and it was kind of like a sketchy neighborhood. I'm a dog walker.
You're a dog walker?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's cool.
So
See, you got to be a nice person to be a dog walker,
Yeah, see, there you go. Thank you. So I was walking, and it was kind of dark, and it was kind of like a kind of semi-sketchy neighborhood, And this kind of, guy was walking in front of us a little bit. I had just started walking the dog, and I don't know, he kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies a little bit, and he kind of saw me, turned around and saw me, and saw the dog, and then he started looking around, and then he started reaching in the front of his pants, kind of like the waistband and stuff like that. And I was like, oh God. And from the Angel book that I read many, many years ago, it always said, ask for Michael to come to your rescue if you ever needed help, And he was like looking around, seeing if there was nobody there, and like reaching in his pocket. And I was like, "Oh, Saint Michael, please protect me. Please come to my rescue, and please be with me, because I'm scared." And right after I said that, as he was reaching out for whatever in his waist, he looked back, and then he did like a double take, and then he stuffed whatever he was reaching in his waist again, and he like booked it out of there. It was weird, so it was like, but I cannot, it's not very, could have been anything.
No, he saw something.
Because he did a double take.
Yeah. He saw something.
Around, yeah.
Your dog was suddenly massive. I don't know, your dog got bigger, or there was somebody walking with you, or there was a big guy behind you. I mean, something happened.
Yeah, he saw something, and then, but he was scared, and he left like his pants were on fire. He was like, bam. And in the beginning, he just stopped and was like reaching. So I was like, I don't know. So I was like, thank you, St. Michael. Thank you. So I believed in my heart. That was it.
This has been awesome, Maria. I hope we talk again.
Nice talking to you. I'm a huge fan of yours. So it was great talking to you.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. God bless you too.
Okay. Right. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, Maria. Maria Burley and her angel stories. I remember hearing a firefighter talk about how big apartment complex, and it was on fire and smoke was everywhere. And so they were clearing it out, making sure everyone was out of the building. And the firefighter went into this one apartment, and he's looking around and yelling out, and is anybody in here, and kind of thing. And he saw the light in the dining room on, the light in the dining room was on. And so he started walking towards the dining room, and he heard a voice that said, "That's not a dining room light." And he stopped. And it was like, and he's turning, and there was nobody there. There was nobody there. And he stopped, but it gave him pause, and he looked, and it wasn't the dining room light. It was the sun. The apartment wall was missing. And what he was seeing in that smoky room was a dim sun. And had he continued walking, he would have walked right out of the building. And angels to the rescue, right? And in that second story where it looked like the guy in the street was going to do harm, a friend of mine told me a story about how she was traveling with a friend. I'm going to call her Susan. Okay, I'm just going to call her Susan. Anyway, so Susan is with friends, and they meet some other people, and there's young guys and there's young girls, and everything's great, and it's a good group. But there was this one guy that they didn't quite trust. This one young guy didn't quite trust him. But it was like, oh, whatever. And then somehow, just by happenstance, it's like everyone was like splitting up. They were at their hotel or whatever it was, wherever they were staying. Somehow, by happenstance, Susan and this guy that no one quite trusted suddenly were in the room by themselves, in the hotel room, motel, whatever it was. And bad news. She immediately a bad vibe, like, ooh, how did this just happen? And sure enough, this guy attacked her. Threw her down. And immediately, Susan began crying out to Jesus. Jesus, Mary, please, please. And she just pleaded in her prayers in this moment with this guy. And there was no way she was going to overpower him. This was going to be bad news. And suddenly, this guy looks down at her. I don't know what he saw, and she doesn't know what he saw, but suddenly he just jumped off of her and bolted out of the room. What was that? And I said to her, did you suddenly turn into a 150-year-old woman? I mean, what just happened there? Did he just suddenly see a lizard? What just happened? What just happened? But an angel to the rescue. An angel, something just happened there. And do you have an angel story? Love to hear it at touchedbyheaven.net. Touchedbyheaven.net. Or some other heavenly conversation that would fortify others. Or some other wow moment you've had in your life where God shows again, He is not boring. He is right here, right now. Those stories fortify others. Thank you for fortifying us. We have big plans, and we need your support through Patreon. And I want to thank George, Scott, Aurora, Heidi, Amy, Lori, Randall, Andrew for clicking on that patron button, Patreon, and becoming a patron at touchedbyheaven.net. We now have hit 40 supporters there. Our goal is 100. You can go direct to us as well. Thank you, Janet, for going to our post office box with your support. Just click the contact page of touchedbyheaven.net. Thank you for subscribing to this podcast on whatever app. Rate and review. It helps others find the podcast. This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. See you next time. I'm Trapper Jack.